I was making my first complete game and I decided to follow the advice of Miyamoto, creator of Super Mario franchise and a lot more Nintendo games, a superhero in this field basically, making the movement and camera controller before even starting to design levels, and I realized that I need a good camera system to make a good game. So I started to look into this and I realized that this is no easy task. Okay, so the point is not to make the best system internet ever saw, but to make something not so bad that people will remember. The camera is in fact one invisible system that you notice only when done incorrectly. So we need to understand what a camera should do. The pillars are following the action, smoothing, framing and direction. The primary role of a camera is to follow the action. Obviously, this is bad. So we need to follow the action, and you may think, that's easy, just lock the camera to the player and you're done. Well, not so fast. What you're thinking about is position locking, and it's not the best thing out there to do. It can work, but meh. It's not the best, and it has the problem that players move also in the vertical axis. You see, given the way our vestibular system works, our brain doesn't really understand what it means a screen that moves. But while horizontal movement is kind of okay, vertical motion without the associated feeling of speed changes feels a bit off. And this can give something called motion sickness. Not very fun, right? Two technologies comes in our help to solve this problem, and they are the camera window and the platform snapping. Okay, the camera window idea is really simple. Move the camera only when needed. Obviously, the dimensions and position of the camera windows is a design choice, based on what game you are playing. This way you minimize camera movement to the minimum required, reducing motion sickness by a lot. By the way, this is also used in fighting games, with the problem that if both players try to escape, the camera doesn't know where to go. But what kind of coward tries to escape the battle in a fighting game? Another great technology is the platform snapping. Remember when I said that vertical movement is bad? Well, we can limit that to when we are not vertically moving. Imagine that the camera moves only when you're grounded. This means that while the player is in the air, the camera doesn't move vertically, keeping the frames stable and reducing motion sickness. You can see this used for the first time in Super Mario World. So to recap a little, the first thing we should do when designing a camera is to follow the action the player does. And we can employ a few basic choices: to position lock, to create a camera window, and to platform snap, or any combination of those. And we have a few parameters to tweak, such as position of the lock or dimension of a window, to make design choices for the game. When you have something that moves at a fixed speed and then suddenly stops, it feels robotic and not very natural. While there are some use cases where you want this type of feeling, this is not the norm, so you can use smoothing. This means you can ease in or out, or a combination of both, from any action instead of suddenly starting or stopping. This not always needs to be coded in the camera controller. For example, if you position lock the camera and the player controller smooths the movement using physics forces to move the player, this movement will be directly inferred on the camera. But this is not the norm, especially if you want a little more control over your camera. Another cool idea I found is in Bonanza Bros. Here you create an area where the camera is fixed, and when the player goes over this area, the camera locks to the other anchor point. So to recap a little, you start by choosing a way to follow the action, and then you choose a way to make this action smooth, so that it doesn't feel robotic, and it's easier on the eyes, avoiding fast changes that gives the player motion sickness. We are finally starting to enter design fundamental choices. Framing is super important because it guides the player on making the action. See for example the way camera is framed in the original Super Mario. All that negative space on the right of Mario gives us an hint on where to move, to understand better how to frame our environments, to suggest player where to look. The first instinct we may have is to gently move the center of the camera in the direction the player is moving to enhance the movement itself. But do this too much and suddenly you can't see enemies that comes from behind you. Or you can fix or move the focus of the camera towards the target the player is interacting with, or where you look with the mouse, or exactly where you aim. You can also use both. See for example Luft trousers. Here the camera identifies all points of interest and gives them specific weights, and finds a position based on this. Then it shifts slightly in the direction the player moves, and in the direction it aims. Finally, it makes some adjustment. For example, when you are near water, it goes a bit more down, so that you know that there is water there. The more exciting system that I encountered while researching for this video is the Q-Focus system in Insanely Twisted Shadow Planet. And there is also a link in the description to the developer that explains how this camera system works. To summarize, we must start by following the action of the player and make this movement feel smooth. Then we can choose how to frame the camera to give hints to the player or create a cool view in some cases. This is the final stage of our camera creation journey. As a game developer, we are trying to tell a story to a game, and so the direction of how we are presenting information is fundamental, and it's where a lot of the design choices and mainly game fields goes into. This is mainly innovation territory, so this is where I want that you try to make something unique. To make you understand how free you are, take a look to the multiplayer Borone system in this game. Isn't this so cool? Then feel free to experiment and innovate. Please give feedback on the video because I'm trying to get better. Bye!